going to start with a question that you presented about recovery without God. I want to touch on that first. Because I think that's really important, and then we can seg into the rest of my story.
Sounds good to me. All right, here I go.
Okay.
Well, hello, everybody out there in Podcast Nation. This is the Recovery Atheist coming to you from the Trey Entertainment Studios, also well known as my bedroom. I'm so excited to be here with you, as I always say, so excited to be here with you. And I've got a friend of mine from Facebook that I'm getting to know. Her name is Julie Tracy. I find out she's from Nashville. I've been to Nashville many times. I love Nashville. And I do have a thing for the Titans, too. I love Ryan Tannehill. I think he's a very underrated quarterback. And Derrick Henry is an amazing running back. So, yeah, so we're going to go ahead and get started with your story. And you said you wanted to start off with the question. Why don't you go ahead and lead with that question and then go on with what you want to say?
Okay, so you, in your Facebook Live just a few minutes ago, you were talking about recovery without God.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I tried recovery many times, and I really believe it was the God aspect that caused me to just say, screw it, I'm going out and I'm not going to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And people were always like, no, you have to have God. No, you absolutely have. You know, why are these people trying to tell me how to run my program? Deal with your own, you know? So the last time, November 28th, 1998, I finally decided I got to do something. I was strung out on crack cocaine. I was prostituting, everything. You know, found out I had a bunch of really bad things happening. But I went to the Nashville Rescue Mission. And I think what absolutely saved me was that their drug recovery program was full. And they put me in their job, it was a job program. It had a name, I can't remember the name of it. But basically, we did little skills. We worked around the mission. We learned how to do resumes. We did little classes, you know, to better deal with life in the real world. And then they put me in charge of the computer lab. And these were some raggedy old computers, but oh my God, I was in my element. My aunt taught me computers a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And it was just something that was sort of in the back of my head, and I didn't really realize that I remembered any of it. But yet I was able to fix computers, and I was able to teach computers, and I was able to, you know, just enjoy being around them. So, and that was almost like a high to me. You know, that I was able to do something productive. And nobody, yes, they were talking about God in chapel time, but it wasn't part of my getting clean. You know, and so it was something that I did myself. I didn't go to meetings. It was just every day I sort of inventoried myself and realized what I had to work on and what I needed to do for myself and what, oh yeah, maybe I cussed out blah, blah, whoever, and I really should apologize for this. That was a new skill too. And it worked. And so almost 22 years later, I trust me, life sucks right now, but it's so much better than if I was high. I'd be dead right now if I was still getting high. And so, no, you do not need God.
I kind of want to touch on that. By the way, I'm a huge computer nerd as well. That where I work for a living, I just getting promoted up to supervisor.
Awesome.
I am kind of like, I'm the IT guy of their computers. You know, I work in a security booth and stuff like that. And so I'm the best at being able to work with the computers and fix them. I used to build computers. So yeah, I enjoy working with computers too. My mom has always said I should have went to school for it. But I want to get on the topic of what you were talking about and what I'm hearing you say. I always have a notebook that's right next to me that I write notes down as I'm interviewing someone to come back to it, because I like you to finish what you're saying and not interrupt you, especially with Zoom. It gets to be kind of hard that way with the delay. But you were talking about doing recovery yourself, doing these things yourself, and learning more about yourself. You were talking about character flaws and defects and that you've had to change those. The biggest question I have, and I would love to hear your thoughts on it, or the biggest thing that I use as a way to debate with people about this is, why can't I be able to change, because I'm a secular humanist, why can't I change the way I treat people and others and see where my character flaws and my defects are and learn how to make amends and say I'm sorry, and when I'm wrong, admit it, and do all of that? Why am I not allowed to be able to acknowledge that and see that and change that without God being in place? I to this day, I still don't understand that. They talk about a lot about morality, that, well, where do you get your morals? Like with me being an atheist, they're like, well, where do you get your morals at if you don't believe in a God? Like, I'm going to go out and rape and pillage and kill just because I don't believe in God. Like, morality only is God, even though when you look at the definition, God is not mentioned anywhere in the definition for morality. So morality is something, for me, I look at as it's based off societal norms, what society decides what those morals are going to be, not based on church. What are your thoughts on some of that?
Basically what you just said. You don't need God. So I just took an ethics class. I'm a 61-year-old sophomore in college, studying to be a social worker. And in an ethics class, we had this exact same discussion. Where does God come into all of this? And I don't really tell a lot of people this. I am a Satanist. I don't identify. There's no real Satan. I believe in myself. And I came out to a bunch of my classmates who, would not listen to the fact that, I have 7 tenets that I live by. And basically, it's just about making me a better person. Well, when I realized that, hey, I'm already doing all these things, but yet I want to identify with others that are like me, it just made sense to go this route. Instead of just hanging out by myself, trying to figure out where I fit in. I have friends now that we all are on the same path. We're all looking to better ourselves through science, essentially. So morality is what we learn, the good things that we learn. Now, whether we learn to apply them or not, that's another story. But I think once we start getting clean, we start learning right and wrong. As addicts, everything is wrong. Everything we do is wrong. We're turning tricks, we're stealing, we're whatever, lying, cheating, to get what we need, because we need drugs, so we're going to do whatever we have to do to get those drugs, or alcohol, or food, if that's our worst vice. But once we stop this, we realize, okay, lying's just not where it's at. Maybe I need to change this. Now, there's no God up in the sky telling me to do this. Just, saying, hey, lying is bad. Don't do this. There's nobody doing
that. That little voice.
No little angels around my head, telling me, no angel and devil type of thing. There isn't. I just know what is right.
No.
And I do it. I don't always succeed, but it's way better than it used to be.
Well, I think that's amazing, what you're talking about. It's really good stuff for the show. I also am a Satanist. I also am part of the Satanic Temple, registered member.
You're all right.
Yeah, so I believe in the 7 tenets as well. I haven't always done it right. There's a few people. There's a few people in the Minnesota chapter that are not very happy with me because I got drunk and said some pretty nasty things. But when I'm sober, the core of who I am is the seven tenets. And so I still am a Satanic Temple member. I still get the newsletters and follow what, we are doing and want to be a part of that. And a lot of people, when they hear Satanist, automatically they go to the supernatural.
Eating babies, burning people at the stake. Yeah.
Right. And I just want to get that out there since we're talking about it, is that's not what we're talking about. I do not believe in a deity either way. I do not believe in a heaven or a hell, a God or a Satan. We use it as mainly a use of words as a way of being what the Latin translation is, which is the adversary. I am an adversary against any religion or any organization that is out to push and force their beliefs on anyone, whether it be from the Christian side of the Ten Commandments being on the steps of the courthouse, the separation of church and state, abortion rights, whatever it is that way that these organizations feel that they can try to control and try to force people to have to live within their concept of what their reality is and what their rules are. I am a Satanist and I stand up as the adversary against that. And I'm sure you kind of feel the same way, correct?
Exactly. And everything that's going on is scaring the shit out of me with the Supreme Court nominee and women's rights possibly being taken away. I mean, and I'm hoping that our third tenet will allow me to still do whatever I need to do. We'll see. I don't know, Dill.
I'm really worried about that Amy. Yeah, I'm really worried about that Amy Barrett too, especially if they get that extra one in there. It's not just Roe versus Wade, which is definitely bad. I don't want to see the Christian faith decide, because if they're going to go there, me being a pansexual, if they're going to go there, then how far are they going to take it? Are they going to take it to gay rights as well, to where it's going to be illegal, like back in the day where they can arrest you for being gay? I mean, how far are we going to take it?
Thomas and one of the other judges have already said, oh, it's wrong. What they did, what Obama did is just wrong. And they're talking about overturning all that shit. And
right. Yeah. So those two judges, so people know out there, those two judges that you're talking about are wanting to get rid of gay marriage. And it's funny, I saw a post on Facebook the other day from one of my friends. Yeah, exactly. Transgender rights too. And it's like it was a meme, and it said that, how are you going to go ahead and try to get rid of gay marriage when your marriage back in the day was illegal too? And of course, one of them was black, and he was married. Yeah, and he was married to a white woman. Well, back in the day, he would have been arrested for that. But he got those laws changed and had nothing to think about. How does a guy like that then go around and think that he has the right to do that? It's just unreal. For me, the thing that's sticking out though is the health care. If it happens that they get rid of Obamacare and pre-existing condition rights and things of that nature, it is going to have a tremendous effect and a horrible effect on this country.
Agreed.
Healthcare is already too high with its costs. I take a Vivitrol shot once a month. It's used for my cravings. And like if I try it, it's a blocker. If I try to drink on it, I get no effect. But it's used to help me get longer. Right. But so it allows me to get longer sober time. It's a great defense for me to be able to do it. That shot is $2,600 a month.
Yeah.
My insurance is paying for it right now. And I have insurance through Obamacare, through the state of Minnesota healthcare. So what happens if that goes through? I'm screwed when it comes to my depression medication, my bipolar medication, my Vivitrol. I ain't going to be able to afford it. So it's like, this is going to have a huge impact on so many people, that there's a lot of people that say, well, we need to get rid of it. You don't realize the impact it's going to have.
And it will cause more people to relapse, more people to die, to commit suicide, because I mean, the implications are horrible. And I mean, I don't see myself having that happen, but I do know people that probably will. It will happen too. And I don't want to lose any of my friends or family. I just don't.
But it's inevitable. You're right. It's inevitable that some of that is going to fall through the cracks. I mean, there's no way that won't. I don't know. I just look at it that, the Republicans on that side who want to do that on the right don't really care about American lives. And I think it's been proven this year when it comes to the whole COVID and everything else. When they asked, Trump about the lives that are being lost, it is what it is. Really? That's the answer you're going to come up with? There needs to be more care given to the citizens. And I don't want to get too political. We want to talk about you and what you've been going through in your story, but it's kind of a hot topic right now, especially with the election less than 3 weeks away.
It is.
And
yeah,
so it's like,
I don't worry about my own sobriety.
Go ahead.
I don't worry about my own sobriety. I worry about others. But I worry about other things. Like, I'm disabled. I have fibromyalgia and a bunch of other stuff, and thyroid issues, you name it. There's a lot wrong with me. And yes, I have a job right now, but how long am I going to have this job? And will Social Security be around? And will I be able to get insurance? And will I be racked with pain the rest of my life? And will I be hopped up on pills because that's the only thing that's going to keep me going, which I don't want to do. But, I think about all this and it scares me. It really does.
Yeah, so I'm just hoping. I got my absentee ballot in the mail yesterday, and from the polls, he's up a good 12, 13 points. Biden
that doesn't
is
mean anything.
And the vote. No, but the voter turnout is up more than crazy this year. It's up like 3 times the amount because more people are voting with the absentee vote. So I think if we get a good turnout, we have a good chance of Trump not being in there.
Oh.
Now, like I said, if he gets in there, it's not going to be the end of the world. We're going to have to suffer some shit for the next 4 years.
I don't know.
But the world will be here. I don't think we will. I'm a believist that we've said this about many other presidents. And we have found a way to get through it. I think in 4 years we'll be voting another president in, and at least Trump will be gone. But if I have my choice, yeah, definitely, without a doubt. I mean, I'm at the point I'd rather see Kanye West in there over Trump. The truth is I couldn't believe it. I looked at the ballot.
I saw him on my ballot.
Kanye West is on. Yeah, Kanye West is on my ballot. I couldn't believe it when I read it on there. I'm like, are you kidding me? Oh.
Yeah,
it's just unreal.
Yeah, he made the ballot. He made the ballot in Tennessee. I don't know how closely they checked.
What a crazy year is all I'm saying that Kanye could get on the ballot. Oh my Lord, that just shows where we're at today.
I think that would be worse than Trump, actually, but who knows? I mean, anyway.
Well, he probably. I'm just saying that for the irony because I'm tired of hearing Trump's voice.
Oh, me too. Well, and the other thing is that my father and Donald Trump could have been like twin brothers, carbon copies.
Oh, I'm so.
Well, that's a great.
That's segment. A good lead-in. Yeah, good segue into it. And first off, I just want to say I apologize to you up front that you had to deal with that, and I'm asking you why you haven't put a bullet in your head yet. Because that's what I want to find out about your story. You obviously were using a lot of drugs and stuff to numb to where you weren't maybe able to pick the weapon up to do it because you were too high. But yeah, if I had to deal with that.
I tried. And,
okay. All right. Let's go into it.
I just want to be the person
start us off.
Somewhere, I don't know if you know about that. So,
what, JFK? I know many about JFK.
So,
go ahead.
So, we moved a lot. I mean, by the time I remember like back to when I was 2. And I remember bits and pieces of all the houses we lived in from the time I was 2 until I was about 5. And then I remember the houses very well and everything that happened. But I think by the time I was 4, we lived in 6 different houses. So we were always moving. the older I got, I didn't have friends. Well, then, we'd spend 6 months or a year, and then we'd move. We didn't go far. We were in the same general vicinity, but we were always in different schools, different friends. And then it became evident that my father was a drinker, a heavy drinker. And he and Mom were always arguing, and I was at 10 being left with I'm the oldest, so I was being left with my 2 sisters and brother who were younger, and I was responsible for them. And my parents would go out to drink, and then they'd, but we would miss stuff. Now, I was starting to talk about my dad earlier before you started the podcast. Dad did do a couple good things. He, because narcissists they have good sides. They have really bad sides though too. So he taught me sports, and he taught me sports well. I mean, not just, oh, they look so cute in those pants. I can discuss football with the best of them. And he taught me music. So when I was 4, I became a Beatles fan, 1964. And I grew up with like the best music and, the best sports teams and the best knowledge. And we'd go to like Wrigley Field, and I started meeting sports stars back in the day. And so that was cool. But then there was the other side of my dad. And as I got older, I was getting in trouble for shit that I didn't do. He would take his anger out on me. There was one day I was next door playing with a friend of mine, and he called over there and told him to send me home. And he literally had me backed against a wall with his finger punching me in the chest. You're not supposed to be, it was punching so hard, my chest so hard with his finger, that the clock above my head fell. We were going to my grandmother's house that night, and I had to wear a heavy shirt with a collar, so my grandmother wouldn't see, but it was hot, so that didn't make any sense. And so I would get beaten if I didn't have my dress hung up the right way after school. Or just little shit, but my sisters and brothers, my brother's youngest, they don't remember any of this. And so when I talk about this, they're, oh, Julie's a liar. Yeah, right. Okay, so we spent the better part of junior high school in the same spot. So I still have some very good friends from junior high school. And they've seen me go through a whole lot of shit. High school, we moved the second half of 8th grade. Now I know absolutely 0 people from my high school. By this point, Dad is traveling. He's drunk all the time. My mother has obvious bruises to her face and everything, and she's lying about what has happened. Like one point, she had a patch on her eye, and she told us that she had an infection in her eye from some mascara. Even went and bought us all new mascara because of it. And and I'm getting in trouble more. Well, we lived in a townhouse in Schaumburg, Illinois, and I had the entire basement to myself. I refused to be upstairs and dealing with my family, and I sort of withdrew into myself. And I stayed in my books, and I stayed in my music, and I was in this fantasy world. My schoolwork sucked. I barely graduated high school. But the thing that I had mentioned earlier about mental health, nowadays, people can readily see if a student is struggling and can maybe suggest counseling or, be able to talk to them about what's wrong. Back in the day, mental health you never talked about that. So the issues that I was having, I couldn't talk about my parents because, oh my God, I'd probably get killed for it. So I learned to lie. Of course, I was learning to lie from my father anyway. But I had a guidance counselor who brought me in one day, and he says, "Why are you not participating in school?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't want to." And he's like, "But you're smart." I'm like, "So?" He's like, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you an IQ test to prove that you're smart. I'm like, okay. And I don't know what he thought he was going to accomplish by that. If by giving me the test and knowing that I had a high IQ, I was going to do better in class. I don't know. But he was asking the wrong questions. He should have been digging into why, further into why. Instead of trying to prove that I was smart, because it was quite obvious I was, to figure out what else could be going on. But he was a football coach, so came back 156. And then all of a sudden it's like, see, I told you were smart, so I guess that meant I was supposed to get straight A's. The rest, well, no, I barely graduated high school. And I'm trying so much, and I'm working. My mom and my sister and I worked at Woodfield Mall at a restaurant. And I started drinking about the time I was 13, but it got worse by the time I was in high school. And it was a way to escape. Now, I didn't ever bring it into the house. It was stuff I did outside of the house. But it felt good. It felt good just to be with other people doing something different than hiding in my basement reading books or listening to music. And then I think at 16, I started smoking weed. In fact, that was funny. A bunch of us from the restaurant I worked at, we got into, there were about 8 of us in a car. And we're passing the joint and everything. And I had no clue.
Hotboxing it.
Huh?
Hotboxing it. Passing around, have the smoke, doing the whole,
yeah.
Those guys, the Chung,
Cheech and Chong.
Tommy
yeah.
Chung and Cheech and Chong just have the smoke rolling out the window.
So a couple weeks later, my mother is like, we're all sitting in the living room. I don't know where TV was. I don't remember. She's like, did you smoke weed at the restaurant's name? And I'm like, nope. Because I wasn't. Technically, I wasn't at the restaurant smoking weed. And I thought I got away with it. And all of a sudden, a few minutes later, she's like, well, did you smoke weed? And I'm like, well, yeah. And she left. So I'm like, okay. Well, what I found out happened was his mom was talking to one of the dishwashers who happened to be in the car at the time. And she's like, well, I know Lori has smoked weed, and I suspect Becky has, because Becky was just that way. But Julie will never, ever smoke because she doesn't like cigarettes and blah, 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 blah. And Mark started laughing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you think. We were all in the car getting high the other night. Okay, great, Mark, thanks. Well, nothing ever happened about it. We laughed about it, and that was it. I guess probably because I told the truth, she was going to leave it alone. At 18, I moved out. Okay. At 18, I also looked like I was 21. At the time in Illinois, drinking age was 19 for beer and wine and 21 for hard liquor. Okay, well, I looked old enough, and they didn't card you back in the day either. So I stayed drunk. I worked at a state hospital for the mentally challenged. Basically, these people were warehoused and needed a place to stay. A big, huge dorm with probably 40 people, rows and rows of beds. It was horrible. I worked 2 first shifts, 2 second shifts, 2 first shifts, 2 second shifts, and when I wasn't working, I was in the bar. And also, I was taking guys home because why not? People were paying attention to me. Guys were paying attention to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up pregnant. Okay, well, then I got fired from my job because I kicked a patient. Not because I wanted to. I was hungover like fuck, and he was annoying. Well, it would have been okay if my brand new shoe hadn't left a print on the patient. Okay, so they didn't bring charges, thankfully, because my life would have been over for real. Nobody really knows this story. And my mother's dead, so she was the only one that really knew. And I ended up having to move home with my mother because I didn't have any place else to go. She talked me into going to a home for unwed mothers in Chicago where I put the baby up for adoption. This child will be 41 years old. Like, couple weeks. I worry about her daily. you know, but I also knew that at that point I couldn't be a mother. So then I move out, and then my aunt, who, I mean, my mother and I never got along. She was all about Lori and Becky. So I was just sort of the odd man out, and I didn't get along with either one of my parents. And I'm living at a rooming house. It's a YWCA rooming house in Rockford. It's not there anymore. And my aunt's like, hey, why don't you come live with us? Go to school, become a CNA. Okay, great. And I was doing well. I got my CNA. I did some more computer stuff. You know, she had a computer in the house. I was learning. She is the reason I got into computers. And then I got an apartment in Mount Morris, Illinois, and was working at the nursing home. And that was great. But I had run into a friend from Rockford, and she would come out and she would shoot dope in my house. Well, no big deal. I never tried it. Well, then I moved to Rockford. I was working in a nursing home, pregnant again. And I decided to keep this baby. But I started shooting dope at the same time. I mean, Julie and I had been running and we'd been doing pills and stuff. But I started shooting dope. This was before I got pregnant. And then, but I was still pregnant. I was pregnant when I quit. So with Tori, I was about 3 months or 4 months along when I stopped shooting dope for a minute. Heroin and cocaine, I went straight from drinking to hard drugs, needles. Tori was born fine. My friend Julie's baby was born severely addicted and brain damaged. And of course, because my child was okay, I didn't think anything of it. And shortly after that, I got pregnant with my son. And I shot dope up until the minute, like hours before he was born. Like literally 3 or 4 hours before he was born. He was a scheduled C-section. So I knew when he was going to be born. He had drugs in his system. He was fine. He was. But he, you know, he could have been really, really fucked up. So at this point, the relationship with my mother is strained really, really bad. My dad has disowned me. Let me back up. Tori is mixed. So Dad, being the narcissistic, racist, lying motherfucker that he was, decided to disown me when I told him I was pregnant with my daughter. He says, I have one question. I said, okay, what is it? Is the baby black? I said, yes. He said, okay, I have nothing left to say to you. Fine, cool. You know, it was a relief to be away from him. But yet I had a lot of his traits still. The lying and I wasn't a racist, obviously, but I had some traits of racism, which I've since broken. So by the time Ryan is 2 and Tori's 3.5, I realized, shit, I got to do something. Otherwise, I will lose my children to DHS. So I placed them in foster care and went to treatment. The reason they went to foster care was so that my mother would not end up with them. I did not want her to have them. That didn't work out.
Didn't want them to be, didn't want them to be in the environment that you had grown up in, is pretty much what you're saying?
Exactly, because I was already realizing I needed to change some things, and I knew that I didn't want my kids to be raised like I was. I didn't know how to do that, but I was going to learn. So I go through the most hellacious withdrawals ever, and I go into, I can't remember the name of the facility in Rockford, but oh my God. Here we start with the God stuff again. And I tried because
here we go.
It was expected of me that I was supposed to try and find this God, you know, and all the, I mean, like in 1984, I became born again because I thought, oh, maybe that will work. You know, and I was pregnant with my daughter. And and I tried going to church. I tried going to different churches, and I tried joining the choir, and here's now treatment saying, you've got to have a God in your life. Well, I finally said fuck it and went back out and started getting high again. I was trying to fudge visits, and I was trying to see my kids while I was high and everything, and that sure wasn't working. And I got into trouble, and they sent me to long-term treatment in Chicago. This was a behavior modification program where if you did something wrong, they would yell at you, literally yell at you. They'd take you to the boiler room, stand you up.
Did they do the hot corner with you, or the hot room, or hot seat with you, where you have a seat in the middle of the room with a bunch of chairs around, yes. And they all, yeah, old school, school counseling.
Mom was bringing the kids to visit, and then one day I get a call from DHS that says, we're no longer involved with your case. Oh, your mother has custody of your children now. What? So what happened is my son's father's cousin was trying to get them, and my daughter's grandmother was trying to get them, but they were not related to the other child. My mother was the only one. So I lost. I stayed in treatment another minute, literally another minute. I called a friend and I said, come get me. Took me back to Rockford. I hung out in the projects for a minute and started shooting. I don't think I was shooting heroin. I think it was pretty much just straight cocaine. Because I figured I might as well. Well, I'd already OD'd once, and I tried suicide somewhere along the way, and I pretty much just didn't care anymore. I didn't care what happened.
You had what we call the fuck it mentality. Yep.
Yeah. And then a friend of mine, actually a cousin of my son's father, who's an over-the-road truck driver, was like, hey, you want to go to Seattle? Yeah, get me the fuck out of Illinois. So I get in this truck, we get to Effingham, Illinois, and he's like, oh shit, I gotta get back to Nashville because my license is getting ready to expire. This is 1988. Do you want to go? Yeah, get me the fuck out of Illinois. Now, we had traveled a little bit, but I've never really been anywhere by myself.
It didn't matter where you were going. You could have been going to bumfuck Egypt. You just wanted to get out of Illinois.
And when we crossed out of Illinois in Paducah, it was like, please wake me up if I'm asleep. Let me know I'm out of Illinois. And he did. Only because he got stuck. He was trying to make this really sharp corner in, I don't know why he took the back roads. He got stuck in a ditch. So we were definitely out of Illinois, and I definitely got woke up. But,
in bumfuck Egypt, Kentucky.
Yeah, exactly. So I get to Nashville, and I'm at the mission, and I know it's a good place, and everything is cool, and but I'm still getting high occasionally. He made sure to show me where to get, because you could go into the drugstore and buy needles. He made sure to introduce me to some people because he knew I wasn't done. And eventually that stopped. And I got jobs, and I had a man, and I was doing well. I loved Nashville, and but I had nothing that was holding me down. My mother had my children. As far as my aunt and everybody, I didn't even consider them really family yet. So I didn't care. In fact, everybody thought I was dead. My sisters, I didn't care about them. I just didn't care. I was by myself. I was happy, and everything was great. Okay, well then finally I decided, well shit, I better call family. I called my cousin, Cindy. And she's grateful to hear from me. Mom's been worrying. I worried. You should have called us, blah, 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 but we understand. Great. Then she drops the bombshell. Oh, your mother's trying to terminate your rights. You better do something about this. So I start to do what I can in Nashville, and eventually I have to move back to Illinois, Freeport, Illinois. Because it wasn't Rockford. I knew I couldn't go to Rockford because I'd end up right back in the mix, and I didn't need that. I mean, Illinois. So I lied to get a job at this hotel. I told Vic that I knew how to work his computer system. He needed a night auditor manager. And it turned out his program was simple as hell, and it was not a bad lie. You know, because the addict mentality, you're going to lie to get what you want. So I got this good job, and, well, that didn't quite work out. And then I became a nurse's aide at the county nursing home, and that was fine. I was going to court about every 6 to 8 weeks. This could have been over in like 3 weeks. But no, my mother's attorney was dragging it out. We started out with one attorney that knew me, who would have given me back my children immediately because he would have seen that I was doing so much better. But no, change of judge. And I really believe that there was grifting going on. I can't prove it. And it'll become clear in a second. But I jumped through every fucking hoop. I stayed clean. I passed every drug test. And, then I relapsed on my birthday. I started smoking crack. Still going to court. And I was okay when I went to court. The drug tests were still coming, but they never said anything about cocaine. It was always either heroin or marijuana, which was kind of a little blessing at the time because I never would have passed otherwise. And then it comes down to the final day, and they terminated my rights but gave me visitation. Now, that's where the grifting part comes in. If I'm so horrible that you're going to terminate my rights, why are you going to give me visitation? You know, so my stepdad was great. He was all about bringing the kids to see me. He was all about, you know, if you come out, well, eventually they moved to Washington. That'll come up in a second. But everything he could do to help me with the kids, he did. He was sort of bucking my mother, though, because my mother just wanted to take the kids and run, which she did. She moved them to the West Coast, to Washington, where she proceeded to poison. Tori remembered me. Ryan didn't. To this day, I don't speak to my son because he believed all the lies that my mother told him, that I didn't love them, that I'd always be a drug addict, that I'd always be a whore, that I gave them away. Not trying to explain that I had an illness that I needed help with. So he and I don't speak. He barely speaks to my daughter. So eventually, you know, I OD'd at one point. I smoked way too much cocaine and reefer and fell out. Friends kept me alive. And then, this was in Freeport, Ricky and I ended up going to Rockford. And I won't even put the Steven Tyler part of the story, but so we're in this residential hotel, just smoking crack like all the time. And I got to the point where I was ready to kill myself again. I had enough money to go get enough heroin to kill myself. Well, the song Amazing by Aerosmith. It's a recovery song. I don't know if you've ever heard it. So every time,
I know.
Every time that song would come on the radio, I would turn it off. It would piss me off because it'd be like, oh shit, that's recovery. I don't want to hear this shit, you know, turn it off. Well, that day, as I'm contemplating going to the drug man to get heroin to kill myself, a song came on the radio. And it was like, okay, let me go take a walk. I walked 2 blocks and there was a travel agency that had prices in their window. And one of them said Nashville for $54, one way. And I went in and bought a ticket with this money. So technically, Steven Tyler saved my life. That's how I tell the story. I actually wrote that story up. He saved my life again.
Well, You know, I just want to put this point in there to you. Christians will look at you and say,
It's a God.
That was God.
I know, right?
That was God that had that song coming on and directed you to that travel. That. Don't you know that was God? That's right there. That's evidence that God exists.
You know what? I had never. Okay, I had never thought about that, but damn it.
I'm good at what I do. I know the games they
you're
play.
Right. You're
You're
absolutely right. So I left again. I ran away again. And let's see. Okay, so I get to Nashville and I go to the projects. I didn't want to go to the mission. I hung out with this chick of mine, and he was happy to see me. And then I don't remember what happened. Anyway, I'm still getting high, and I'm still trying to work. I actually went back to the job that I had when I left to go to Freeport, which was at a publishing company, and it was telemarketing shit. It was a good job. And I met my husband, and I'd actually stopped getting high, and we got married. Well, he turned out to be a drunk crackhead. Don't know how he kept it from me until after we were married, but he did. And he beat the shit out of me a few times. Once at the mall, that was lovely. Anyway, eventually the job went away, and the last time he beat the shit out of, he left after he beat me up the second time and he went to jail. He left, and I still hadn't relapsed yet. So I relapsed shortly after that. I'd been up, I was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I was reading a book. My light was on. This dude knocks on the door. I don't know him. High as a fucking kite. To his eyes about this big. I said, what's up? He said, listen, I've got some money. Do you want a turn trick? I'm like, you don't even know me. I said, you could be a cop for all I know. No, I knocked on your door. I'm not a cop. So I needed money, so sure, why not, you know? And then the thing, so I said, what are you on? He said, crack, you want some? I'm like, sure, why not? You know, we had a hell of a fucking time. We really, really did. And so then I was off again. I didn't have much clean time in there, really. Got back with my husband. He ended up beating the shit out of me again, broke my arm and left. I haven't seen him since. We're still technically married. And this is coming up to like 87. And I'm working this real cool job. I'm working on a construction site as the office manager. In fact, right now I work in the same building that I helped build in 1998, I mean. So this was the year of the tornado in Nashville. You know, and it was like, come November, I'm ready to finally get clean. And I ended up the mission, and you heard all that story. And life has not been easy. It's been fucking hard. But I wouldn't trade any of it for anything that I've already gone through. I really wouldn't. You know, I'm learning how
Let me ask you.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. Yeah. You know, a lot of addicts and alcoholics really struggle with what they've done in the past, and they want to hold on to it and really beat themselves up over it. For me, I've kind of turned it on its ear to the idea of, without that, I would not have the experience I have today to make the decisions and be the better person that I am today. I just ended up taking a harder road to learn those lessons. But I can make those amends and live life right. Even to the people that I can't physically make amends to, I can do living amends and make sure that I don't hurt someone again because of the choices I make. So I really struggle. Like, that's one of the things with AA I struggle with, which I work a 12-step program with AA, with science being my higher power. Yeah, so, but at the same time, I don't like it. Like the 4-step, I did mine, I got through it. I tried to just not overthink it and just get through it with resentments I had. I don't want to go through every single thing I've done. I don't think I need to tell that to someone I barely know. I think that's something that I'll work through with a therapist and things like that. But there's a very big emphasis almost like on reliving what you've done and being stuck in that. And that's a lot of struggles I see with people in addiction, is they struggle with being able to forgive themselves. So how has that experience been for you? Obviously, you've got, what, 22 years?
Almost.
Obviously, you've had a lot of time. Yeah, you've had a lot of time to be able to get through that. And I'm sure through those 22 years, at little spots and moments, you have felt that come back up again of, shit, man, I really did a lot of bad things. What would you say to people out there that are struggling with that today?
Okay, in the early years, yeah, I had a whole lot of problems. It helped that when I moved to Freeport to fight for my children, I realized that my aunt was more of a mother to me than my mother ever was, and continued until she passed just recently. So having family, or, I mean, even if it's not blood family, but having people that believe in you makes all the difference in the world. My sisters, my brother and I, we've made amends. My sisters and I haven't. My mother did tell me she was proud of me and she loved me before she died. A little too late, basically. But I don't know if you've seen things on Facebook that say, if you could change, go back and change anything in your life, what would you change? And I always say nothing. I will change nothing of my past, because I have learned so much. You know, don't ever wish away what happened.
Yeah, I've struggled with that before, especially when I'm dealing with relationships. And this is kind of the direction I want to go. Obviously, you listen to my live feed. I was talking about ACA, Adult Children of Alcoholics. The things that have really tripped me up in thinking in the past and not being able to change the way I felt about it. And if that question was asked to me that you just asked, that's what I would say, is I'd go back and change my relationship with my wives. Married 3 times, divorced 3 times. One of them, Joanne, I really felt, I really, struggled with the idea of I still should be married to her. And that I really messed up a good situation, and I would be stuck in that. And it would lead me back into self-loathing, self-pity, regret, and next thing you know, I'd be drinking. And today I don't revert back into that. They were experiences. At that time when I was at that, it was best for her to not be with me. It was best for me to not be with her. You got to look at it as that was a moment in your life that was what that moment was. And if you continue to think about that and live in that, what are you doing with the present moment that you have?
Exactly.
So what I've done is I've taken it and I've used it as a way of learning to be able to build healthy relationships. And if someone would come along in my future to where I would look at for an intimate relationship, I will be able to go off of what I have previously learned to better my life. So don't, for all the people out there, don't beat yourself up over those experiences. You become a wiser person, even in the bad experiences.
Exactly. And it helps you appreciate the good experiences as well, even better.
Yes.
I'm currently dealing with an ex that I just can't get rid of. So, even I...
Yeah, you were telling me that. Yeah, you were telling me that, so we had to postpone this a little bit.
Yeah. Well, we tried, and then we decided...
Well, it says... I wanted to say this real quick. It says in step 1, that we're powerless over our alcohol, and it says our lives have become unmanageable. Just because you're sober doesn't mean your life doesn't have unmanageability to it. It still happens.
And you can put alcohol. I mean, you can put anything in place of alcohol. So right now,
correct.
My relationship with Eric is unmanageable, and my life is kind of fucked up right now because of that. So, I had the police here earlier. He is also narcissistic, and I still decided I was going to try and be friends with him. He needed a place to stay for a couple weeks. He did not clean. I haven't cooked in over a month because I've been sick, and he was helping around the house.
Mm-hmm.
He cooks, but he half-ass cleans. And so today I decided I was going to make some soup and put a pot on the stove. And they cleared me from COVID, but I still don't smell or taste anything. So something says, go in the kitchen. I go in the kitchen, there's fire on my stove. Well, fire panics me. But I was able to calmly remove the pot from the burner and turn the burner off and wait for the fire. And then I panicked badly. So I messaged Eric and my roommate, and I said, I'm fucking furious. You know, why are the burner pans not the brand new burner pans? Why are they not being cleaned? And why was there a fire? Well, then Eric continues this was in like a house text. And then he continued into his own text, basically saying, if you just wanted new burner pans, all you had to do was say that. I'm like, but I didn't say that. I'm trying to explain about a panic attack I'm having because you and our roommate were negligent in cleaning the house, cleaning the burner pans. I didn't do it and blah, blah, blah. Well, finally he did admit that he never cleans the burner pans. And, but he's still not going to give in to the fact that he kind of fucked me up today. He's not going to take responsibility for the stove being nasty all the way. It's just, it has to be me. And so I called him a narcissist. And he said, the reason, because you think you know that of me, you really don't know me. And of course, a narcissist doesn't know that they're narcissists anyway. So it's just been a really fun day. And I learned again that I really need to just leave him alone. And the police will be here probably tomorrow when he comes to get his stuff and take him to jail for being a jackass, basically. Well, there's also an order of protection that...
this is where I want to kind of tie it in back into ACA, because obviously you know what it's like to be an adult child of an alcoholic.
Oh, yes.
So when, I was talking about the dysfunction, it's also for people that just have lived in, that are adult children of dysfunctional families as well.
Right.
But right. From that is, go ahead.
You mentioned that in your Facebook Live too, and that was another thing I wanted to touch on. The alcoholism could have happened 5, 6, 7 generations ago, and the dysfunction just continued. And then again, it could have been, any dysfunction is just dysfunction. It's a learned behavior. It's, a parent learns.
Perfect segue with what I want to do here. So the question I have is, how do you feel about it? How did that dysfunction in your family condition you for life in the role that it played? Obviously in your relationships it has, in work, in beliefs, character defects that you could have. You look at your relationships with getting with men who are also alcoholic, which your dad was an alcoholic. It tends to lean us toward going back into those situations and conditions us to do that because it's comfortable, because that's what we know. How do you relay that in your life when you see it?
Remember I told you when I was 10, I was put in charge of the family. So I've always been in the helper position. And even with Eric right now, it was to help him because he was on the street. I don't want to see any of my friends on the street. So, and I try not to let it get to me. I try not to internalize it. I told you I'm going to school to be a social worker. I want to help people. That's just who I am. Talking to people, I talk to everybody. You're talking about talking to people on the bus. I stand downtown during events in downtown Nashville and give directions because that's just what I do. I love talking to people. I've been an Uber driver because I love talking to people. I've worked in hotels because of people, and it's all about, I've always been in a customer service position. Right now I work for a major phone carrier in tech support. If you call tech support and something's wrong with your phone, you might get me and I'll help you fix your phone. But it's always about helping.
I did that for Verizon.
Well, I wasn't going to mention any names, but me too. We are so much alike. Wait, I lost you.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
Yeah, I work for Verizon right now.
I'm back. Are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I worked in Bowling Green, Kentucky for AFNI, which is a side company that is working for Verizon.
I work for Asurion.
Ah, I know who they are, yes.
Asurion's got about 86,000 different divisions, and you'll see their name all over the place. But we're also the Verizon call center for tech support, and all of the Verizon. We're Verizon. I'm a Verizon employee, a proud Verizon employee, by the way. And I love my job. I've just been too sick to work it, and that pisses me off because I want to go back to work. Until I get cleared from a doctor with this COVID shit, I'm sitting here with all this equipment and can't work. Don't know how I'm going to pay my bills, but that'll take care of itself. I know that there's people that I can call that if I say, hey, I can get it.
Well, you were talking about family roles. You were talking about the caretaker. Mm-hmm. So that led me into doing, because there's a list of different family roles, especially when it comes to a dysfunctional family at times. You have the addict in the family.
That was me.
You have the caretaker. Yeah, you have the caretaker. You have the hero. You have the scapegoat. You have the mascot, who's the comedian, and then you have the lost child. And I was I leaned into the lost child more than anything.
I was in like all the roles.
So
at different points of, all of them.
So I want to kind of get to the point now where we're going to start slowly ending it down. And I want to thank you for being able to get your story out there and being real and being authentic. I'm sure people who will listen to this will relate to your story and what you went through. And that's what my podcast is about hearing each other and realizing that we all are, looking at the similarities instead of the differences and working together to become better. So I want to go out with a little thing with you as well. Is what kind of advice, being that you have 22 years, which is amazing. I did 13 November years 28. Before.
I have,
or almost 22.
I have today.
Yes, exactly. And so do I. And I had 13 years and ended up going back out. So I know what it's like
almost 22 years of today's.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those lines where they say I have a few 124s and I'm living in 124 right now.
Yeah. Exactly.
So what to the newcomers, to people who are fresh and are green, wet behind the ears coming into recovery, what would be some support or some advice to allow them to realize that they're not alone and they can do this? Because for me, I listen to your story and I see someone who's been through a lot of pain and a lot of anguish and a lot of things that have happened, yet you're still alive, you're sober, you're doing what you're having to do, and there's other people out there that can relate to that. How can they, in your mind, get closer to having that peace and content?
The best piece of advice I can give, because you're gonna screw up, you're gonna relapse. They always talk about progress, not perfection. You're going to. Nobody gets it right the first time, but That's with anything in life. When you fall down, get up. Always get up. I don't care if you're just on your knees. Get up. Because being on your knees is better than being on the ground. So it's not how many times you fall, but how many times you get back up. And right now, I'm up. I keep falling. Trust me, I keep falling. It's not about drugs, but it's about life in general. And I keep falling and I keep picking myself back up. It's the best I can do.
Yeah, and I think those are good words. I feel the same way. I just don't give up. If you fall down, get back up on the horse, like they say, and keep moving forward. I've had multiple fall downs. Been through 8 treatments now. The first time I had the 13 years sober, I'd only gone through 1 treatment, and I really didn't have a respect for the people that had relapsed and got back up and was able to keep moving forward. Today, I'm able to be grateful.
They expect you to believe that you have to be perfect right off the bat. They don't tell you it's okay. I mean, they don't want you to go out and get high, but if it happens, it's okay. Just start over. Keep going. They don't let you know that it's okay for this to happen. They want you to get it right the first time.
Yeah, and a lot of time. Right, and a lot of time when that happens, then if you feel like this is another thing with AA I struggle with. I get the medallions for myself, like I've just got my 7th-month medallion. I get it that they count days and stuff like that, but the whole idea of the minute you lose all that time, and it just makes someone go, I just put in a year's worth of effort, now I got to start all over again. Just go out and go on a 6-month to a year bender if they come back at all. It's okay that if you fall down and you mess up, you can get back up and move forward. You did not lose those sober days. I did not lose my 13 years. Those 13 years, I learned how to be sober and live in recovery, and I can always tap back into that experience. We need to stop judging people on that. And instead of ridiculing them or having a judgment over that and playing this game of, look, I'm better than you because I didn't relapse, how about we do what we really should do when it comes to the humanistic point of view, is pick that brother, pick that sister back up again, dust them off and say, let's keep moving, just come along with me, and we'll keep moving forward and get better and better day by day.
Exactly.
We just don't see that much. We just don't see it much anymore in the country we live in, and it's just really disappointing to me.
I think a lot, and going back to right where we started, I think it has to do with the way the country's going right now, the direction we're going in, and it's sad. Yeah, I think it's sad too, and it's okay. This is where I'm gonna close out the thing, and I want you to stay with me after I end up closing off the podcast here. I want to be able to talk for a little bit with you. But I just want to say this, that with the country that we're living in and everything like that, please, if you want to change and you're uncomfortable, let's change it. Nothing happens, nothing changes if you're comfortable with the situation. It's always when you're uncomfortable. You don't leave a job if you're comfortable with it, or a relationship. You end up sticking with it. Right now, I don't know about you out there in the world, but I'm uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable with the conditioning that's going on, with the way the world is, and the way the country is, and the division that's going on, and the hatred that we have going on. I just, it's very concerning to me, and I feel that if people who are like-minded with me and feel the same way, if we stand up and start having a voice and doing something different, and start showing other people examples of how we should be helping each other, that it would go a long way to make changes. Now, is that going to happen overnight? No, it's not. It's going to be a long road, and it's going to take a lot of work. But I believe in humanity. That is why I'm a humanist. I believe in humanity, and I believe that this is something that we can accomplish together if we want it. But it has to be together.
I want to thank you. Go ahead, Julie.
No,
yeah, it has to be together.
It has to be together. It's not something we can do by ourselves.
No. And that's also with recovery. You can't do it on your own. You've got to have those people around you that are supporting you. I think we can do this together. I am very confident and very, I feel very uplifted and positive that there is going to be change. I've got my fingers crossed and that we will find the solution to this. But I want to thank you, Julie, for coming on with me today. This was a great episode. I think there's going to touch a lot of people out there and make a difference. And then in the future, I'm hoping to have you on again sometime and just kind of check in and see where you're at. That. Outside of that, I want to that would be wonderful. I want to say thank you for everyone who is listening to this podcast. Remember, you can definitely find me in different locations on different platforms, especially Spotify. Definitely would love to have you listen to me and reach out to me at therecoveryatheist@gmail.com. And with that, I just want to say I love everybody and be safe out there. Peace.